Hey guys, so Ashley from Grace and Grit tagged me in the assumptions video that she made a couple of weeks ago by the time you're seeing this, or maybe last week. I'm not sure when I'm gonna post this. And she knew that this was a video that I wanted to do, which is why she tagged me. I'm not gonna tag anyone because I think in order to do this video, you have to be ready to receive whatever it is that people have to say, and I don't really wanna put anyone in that position. So if you want to do this video, let me know, or if you have done it, let me know in the comments below and I will go take a peek at your video. I was very comfortable doing this video because I engage with you guys all the time on Instagram, and so I know that you guys weren't going to be too harsh, although I was still expecting a couple of I don't know, I thought there would be some little comments, but there weren't. Everybody was very kind, and I'm very flattered and humbled because you guys are so sweet, and it's interesting to see how people perceive you based on what we share, what I share here on YouTube and Instagram and things. So I'm gonna get right into it so I don't waste any time. I'm just gonna go through all of the assumptions that you guys shared. So basically this is just a video, if you're not familiar, where you tell me what you assume to be true about me and I tell you if that is in fact the truth or not. So starting right at the beginning, I assume that you love the Florida weather. Accurate. I love the Florida weather. I am one of those Floridians who loves even like the mid-July and August heat. I won't complain about the heat here at all because when it dips even into the 60s, I am such a wimp. I'm very vocal about that. So yes, correct assumption. Next is I assume you like things to be organized. I assume you like to be in control. I do love to have things organized. More than having things organized, I like to be structured in my schedule. I could handle a little bit of clutter and things like that as long as I feel in control of my schedule. But that should be no news to you. Yes, you are correct. I don't know anybody who doesn't like to be in control, but it's not in like a control freak sense to where I couldn't function if things were not organized. But yes, that's correct. You're actually the greatest big sister in the whole world. That's from my sister. Yeah, that's correct. Of course I am. No, actually you're just the greatest little sister in the whole world. Okay, I assume that you will homeschool every single kid until, oh, this one didn't come through all the way. And so I actually messaged her to see what her question meant, because it could have gone either way. She said, I assume you will homeschool every single kid until they graduate high school, no matter how, and then the question cut off there. And so I was like, that could go either way. She could either mean no matter how good it is for them, like I'm assuming that you're just gonna homeschool them no matter what, but what she actually meant was, I assume that you will homeschool every single kid until they graduate high school, no matter how hard it gets. That's actually an interesting question because my husband and I have just started talking about that. We are committed to this at least all the way through 8th grade. I really doubt anything's gonna change our mind about that. Initially we said year to year, we'll take it year by year. And obviously, unless, you know, if the Lord would have us do something else for some reason, we would be receptive to that. But according to our plan, we're homeschooling all the way through at least till 8th grade. I don't love the public high schools here, but there are a couple of private high schools. One is an art school, that's actually where John and I met, and another is a Christian academy that academically does very well. I think a lot of times private schools don't always have the best academics behind them, not that they have to, but my reasoning for saying that is if any of our kids show that they need more direction artistically or creatively beyond what we can offer them, that there's that one option. And the same goes for academically. If they are needing to do like AP level classes and I don't feel comfortable with that, then there is the private high school that I spoke of. But honestly, I live in a town, it's a smallish town, but there's tons of homeschoolers. There are so many homeschoolers here. Because of that, we have really great options and co-ops all the way up through high school. The thing though is that almost everybody stops homeschooling here around 10th grade and does dual enrollment because the community college has an extension here in our town locally. So almost everyone I know basically homeschools till about 10th grade and then their kids just dual enroll full time. So if we do homeschool through 12th grade, which would of course be something I would love to do, there is a strong chance that my kids would start dual enrollment. Now, I actually started dual enrollment in 9th grade, which was a little too young. I would probably put my kids in 11th and 12th grade, but we'll see. Don't know for sure. I'm actually, this is sidebar, I'm actually a really strong advocate for a gap year. I just think that that's really great and a great opportunity. We also in our town have a humongous contracting or just any trade kind of does well here, because I'm not sure if it's everywhere in Florida, but at least where we are, there's a large population of wealthy snowbirds, and because of that, they are generally unaffected by the economy. They have their money in their account, and so any sort of construction or trade, plumbing, electrical, anything like that does well here regardless of how the housing market is doing. And so first of all, my husband owns a business, or will, you know, fully own the business by the time our kids are older, but also we have so many connections in that industry that I would love to see my kids take a year off and spend some time considering what they would like to pursue before they, if they decide to go to college. So anyway, that was a really long answer for that question. So hopefully some more of these will be yes or no. Okay, next. Annie, I assume Annie makes it known she wants to be your last baby and you're agreeing. Yeah, Annie does make it known that she is the boss. I don't know if she wants to be the last baby, but yes, John and I, as of right now, are pretty certain that we are done having babies. That's all I'll say for now on that, I think, because I don't really want to start a train I can't catch up with here on YouTube, but you know, we're in discussion about what the future would be. As far as if we're done having kids, like, you know, raising children, I don't know. You'd never move away from the beach. I mean, it would take a lot to get me to move away from the beach. As of right now, we are a bike ride away from the shore, an 8-minute drive to a decent beach. I don't really think I could ever. Any day that we're having a rough one, we pack up and we head to the beach. I mean, it is just so good, not only for me, but for all of my kids. All of my best memories with all of my girlfriends is just making a coffee, meeting at the beach at 9, letting our kids play all day. And it takes very little to entertain them. Most often, one of my friends will bring the snacks, one of my friends will bring the toys, because we don't want to get all of our beach toys mixed up. And the kids just have a blast. I mean, seriously, minimal effort from us as the parents, because the kids just have a great time. I cannot imagine ever being landlocked now that I live at the beach. I lived in Chicago growing up. I moved down to Florida when I was like 14, so or to the beach when I was 14, and so basically I have no recollection of what it would be like to be a parent anywhere else, but I definitely appreciate the beach, and we are big beach people. So yes. I assume that you're a very gentle mom, i.e. you rarely yell even if you're frustrated. I actually got a lot of questions like this, so I'll read the assumptions, but basically my answer to this is my answer is I do rarely yell, but I was a yeller for a long time. It breaks my heart actually to think about the damage, you know, that is done when you yell like that. That being said, it doesn't mean I never yell now. If you do catch me yelling at my children, it will most likely be around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm just like done from 4 to 5. I can get a grip after 5, but like 4 to 5 is such a hard time of day for me. But I am consistently the same mom in public as I am at home. How that translates on YouTube, I'm not sure, but I know that like I have a confidence in that I respond to my kids the same way when I'm around my friends as I do when I'm in my home, and that makes me feel comfortable because it means that I have nothing to hide as far as my parenting goes. I don't feel like my kids are getting like a fake mom when we're in public. It's something I've always been aware of just because I've seen it happen so many times. then you find out the kids are actually having like a horrible time at home or something like that. One of the things that definitely helped me so much, and I've talked about this before, is the Kirk Martin Celebrate Calm curriculum or podcast, whatever you want to invest in. But his podcast is free. I highly recommend that if you want to change your perspective, if you struggle with yelling. The biggest issue for me was back to that control issue. I would yell because I didn't really have a way to go about gaining control. Most of that changed when I tried to figure out what it was that was causing that frustration for me. And most often it had to do with just being a people pleaser and committing to too much. And then my kids got my leftovers, which my leftovers were a tired, worn out mom. The other thing is assuming that you have to control your kids, which, you know, if they're misbehaving, it's not a reflection on you, so it shouldn't rile you up. One other thing that that I think would cause that that helped me when I was trying to get out of that, was just meeting intensity, my kids' intensity with more intensity. That just is not a good reaction. And then the biggest thing that helped me, and that continues to help me when I'm feeling frustrated, is I was talking to my pastor one time about it, and I was just explaining like, oh, the kid's just like wearing me out, and he was just like, why do you feel like it's your job to control your kids in that situation? Why can't you step back and see that the Lord sees what you're seeing? He doesn't think that you have to present him a perfect offering of well-behaved kids. I mean, yes, we're intentional as parents and we should be, but if your kids are fighting over Legos, it doesn't mean you need to fix that problem in order to be a confident mom and a daughter of Christ. And so the way he said it was, why can't you just step back and see that the Lord is agreeing with you that, yeah, this moment is a little bit crazy, but that's okay. And when he said that, it was just like such a weight lifted off my shoulders. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that that was the reason why I was always getting frustrated, was that I was just trying to prove that I could control my family as if it was a reflection on me. So all of that helps. Again, like I always say, because homeschooling is really hard with like being with your kids all day long. You wear out after a certain amount of time. Make sure you take some time in the middle of the day for yourself. I always try to do the quiet time for the kids and spend a little bit of time resting on my own, not just working while they're resting, because then that can help you prepare your heart and gear up for another hard part of the day, which is the afternoon. But also just get an overview of your schedule and see why things are feeling out of hand. If you're getting to the point of yelling often, it means that there's something else that's triggering that. It's not the fact that the kids are whining. Although the two things that will, like I said, between like 4 and 5 that will set me off is if the kids wake the baby up from her nap just because they're being loud and crazy. Then waking her up from her nap is just so hard, because I'm so discouraged when she wakes up from her nap like early, because it means she's going to be miserable, and therefore I will be miserable until evening. The other thing is just like consistent whining that there's no solution for. Like, even if I were to give in to whatever they were asking for, you just know they're still going to be whining. That's just, that frustrates me. You are genuinely warm and welcoming. I hope so. I can't answer that question. I think people who know me would have to answer that question. I would hope that I am warm and welcoming. That you are this, oh, that's from Joy, that you're the sweetest person in the world. Do you think that about me? You're the sweetest person in the world. There's no way I could be the sweetest person in the world. This is hard because you are very transparent and honest. Thank you. That would be the whole purpose of me even starting this YouTube channel, was to offer transparency and honesty. You guys know I don't pretend to know it all. I assume that you are consistent with disciplining your kids. Yes, I have to be, but that goes back to me feeling really out of control. When there's no consistency, it's just like a constant uphill battle. Establishing consistency and follow through is really hard, because you feel like you're like walking through the trenches and having to stop everything as it's happening. But once you are able to get that respect and that follow through and the consistency, even for your own self, then it actually is pretty smooth sailing at that point. So yes, I am very consistent. We have the same responses to the same, like it's no surprise my response to the kids when they're fighting about a toy. It's no surprise my response when they hit each other. It's no surprise. There's no surprises. But it also keeps me from being like, if you don't stop fighting, I'm gonna make you, you know, mow the lawn, because I'm not gonna make them mow the lawn. That's too much work for me. So throwing out those random things just to get control, having some consistency keeps you from having to do that. That you're a very calm person who doesn't get angry easily. Thank you. That's like the same, goes back to the same thing. I will tell you though, I get flustered easily, and my response in those moments is never good toward my kids. I don't get frustrated, but I get like really thrown off and I feel like dizzy a lot. If there's a lot of noise. Noise clutter is worse to me than like physical clutter. If that's one of the reasons we don't really have the TV on a lot. Sorry, that was gonna time out. Because it makes me feel all jumbled up. And when that happens, I don't get angry, but what I do is I get very dismissive toward the kids, which is just as detrimental as yelling at them, is basically telling them you don't care. If they, you know, if they're coming to me with an issue, sometimes I say really harsh things. One of the worst things I can think of that I'll say to them is, I'm not accepting any questions at the moment. Like, who says that? Like, I'm a customer service representative. Like, I have no capacity for any intake right now. Like, my 5-year-old doesn't know what that means. He's just hearing like, mommy doesn't have time for you, versus getting on their level and saying, it's a little noisy, I can't really think straight, let's talk about this in another room. I'm just very, very dismissive. That you have lots of energy. Probably, I think I do. But I can also have completely zapped energy. It's all about momentum for me. If I wake up on time and I get things moving, waking up early is very important to me because it sets me off for a good day. I can like stay, it's crazy to me sometimes that I can stay going until like 11 at night and not realize how late it is. If I wake up late or I'm not prepared, I don't have plans for the day for school, it's like I have no motivation, no energy at all. So I do have tons of energy when I'm well prepared. Okay, you and your husband don't struggle. And that makes me sad because I think everybody struggles in one way or another. Maybe our struggles aren't as public or as easy to pick up on, but we definitely have struggles. I think everybody does. Our first couple years of marriage were like absolute torture for both of us. We had so many just insecurities to work out, and we needed to mature so much. I think everybody also has that experience at the beginning of their marriage, but we also saw the worst of each other in our first couple years of marriage, and there's a vulnerability and a trust that occurs when you are honest and on the same page, and you have seen that about each other and you're still choosing each other. And so yes, but I mean, we are definitely on the same page about most everything involving parenting and about our marriage, and it helps that he's a very intentional person, but I am as well, and we've been together for so long that we've definitely grew up together. So a lot of that just makes things easier in one sense. Like, we think the same way and we have the same desires and set the same goals, but most importantly, we both have no issue with being submissive to what the Lord would have us do. So I remember there was a season where I really wanted to move somewhere and John was interested, and I took his interest as a definite yes, and then when it turned out that wasn't going to work out, you know, I had to surrender to that. That was one of the hardest things for me to come around to, but again, that builds trust, because so now he knows I'm willing to go on whatever journey the Lord is leading him on, and in turn he feels confident leading us on, and the same thing vice versa. You know, there are times when he just doesn't want to do something, but he knows that it's the right thing to do, and a sacrifice that he can make for me. So there's just a lot of trust there, which makes things, yes, not come to blows often, but it doesn't mean that we don't. You're extremely patient. It's interesting because because I'm a very scheduled, like structured, routine person, I don't have as many opportunities to show how impatient I actually am, but I am actually not very patient. Naturally, I think that I've learned definitely how to trust the Lord and be patient, but that is a work in progress kind of thing. Although for things like making financial decisions, like, or purchases, I'm patient in that sense, like delayed gratification, but when I'm like wanting an answer, wanting to know something, not very patient. You have a kind heart. Thank you. I hope so. Again, that's another thing, like, it's hard to say like, yes, you are right, I'm a kind person. Okay, you are very intentional and you have a well thought out life. I can say I know for sure that I'm an intentional person. Parenting has really brought that out for me. And I know that, like, I just love to love on the people that I love. So I think that comes across as being intentional, but I can also be very, like, I mean, what would be opposite of intentional? I don't know. I can probably also come across as not caring a lot as well. And I know this is gonna sound kind of harsh, but it's probably, in those circumstances, it's probably because I don't really care. Not that I don't still try to put my best foot forward, but I've also learned, again, like as a people pleaser, how to self-advocate and not take on too much and not try to overdo it. So where it is important, I am intentional. And you have a well thought out life. That's interesting to me. I don't really know what that looks like. A well thought out life. On the one hand, I do have like how do I answer that question? I don't know. Do I have a well thought out life? I actually have no future plans, so that's kind of a funny thing. I trust in that, I take it day by day, you know, but I think like my day-to-day is well thought out, so that's interesting. I don't know, what do you guys think? What do you think that means? Your kids seem like they never fight and you never raise your voice. Well, let me tell you. My kids, they're going through some stuff, my boys at least. Most of my kids don't fight often, but my boys will go through seasons where like it makes me want to cry, because it's just like, you boys are so close in age and I want you guys to just like love each other forever, and yet they like literally cannot stand each other sometimes. But then like these last couple of weeks, I've seen them make moves toward one another and make little sacrifices for each other, and I think we're coming around to the other side of that. But I will say, like, for the last 6 months, I have just been like, John, I don't think they can share a room anymore. But it's been good. They're both maturing in that. But raising my voice, again, with the yelling thing, I will say though, like, my kids, I definitely have a stern voice. My kids know what is expected of them, and it doesn't take yelling for me to use words that make them stop exactly what they're doing. You know what I mean? That you're a great mom. Thank you. My kids probably don't think so. Actually, my daughter is so sweet, and she probably does think so, just because she's so encouraging and I just love her. But no, for the last 3 days in a row, my 5-year-old has told me that it's the worst day ever, even though we've like done the best things I could think of. So every night in bed, oh, this was the worst day ever. So I don't think they would all agree with you. I love this question. Okay, I assume that you like vegan and vegetarian food, but you don't want to completely go to that lifestyle. That is a great observation or assumption, because I do. I love plant-based food, but I'm not interested in adapting the whole lifestyle, not because I think there's anything wrong with that, but just because I'm not like on the fence with it. I've gone through seasons where I've said, for this season I'm eating plant-based, I'm eating a vegan diet. I'm not there yet as far as the ethical thing. I think because we always choose or almost always choose like organic, plant-based, or local products when possible, that the ethical side of things isn't, I'm probably gonna get like a ton of flack for this, but so I'm not there completely. on the ethics of a vegan lifestyle specifically. If you mean plant-based lifestyle, because vegan lifestyle is talking about things like, you know, buying leather and anything that, you know, any animal products in any way, shape, or form. But the vegan lifestyle as a whole, it's not completely appealing to me. What I do is I follow, and for like the last 10 or 11 years, have really followed Michael Pollan very closely, and he totally turned mine and John's life around with his In Defense of Food book. If you haven't read that, it's so great. So some of the phrases he says is, eat food, not too much, mostly plants. Another thing he said is, don't eat something your great-grandmother wouldn't recognize as food. And then he also always says, you are what you eat eats. So we kind of, between that and the 100 days of real food, that was where we got, that would be like the foundation for the way that we eat and what we choose to eat. We've gone through some elimination diet periods where we were like, oh, meat's so bad, it's like making us feel horrible, and then we realized it was actually dairy that was making us feel so bad. So we're kind of all over the place, but when you see me make plant-based foods and do plant-based weeks and things, it's just because it makes us feel good, but it doesn't mean that it's something that we're subscribing to as our whole lifestyle. We think it's fun, I think it's challenging to put ourselves through that every now and then, and we don't go through. Personally, my husband and I, 99% of the time, do not eat meat during the day at all. We are completely like, we would be completely plant-based until dinner time, and then you guys see my meals videos, so at least 2 or 3 days a week, if not more, we'll do a plant-based meal, not just a vegetarian meal, but because we generally avoid a ton of dairy, it would just be plant-based or vegan. So that's interesting, but I think that the temptation for me would be to go completely vegan just because I like to do things and do them all out. But the reality is I just like the way that food makes me feel, so we don't do a ton of animal products. You're an awesome mom who's got it all together. I want to be like you when I grow up. That's actually from a personal friend. That was sweet. That I want to be the way that you guys perceive me to be when I grow up. Does that answer that question? Okay. That you are done having kids. My body, I think, is done having kids. Like, I don't know that I would want to go through a pregnancy again. I think I can. I mean, anybody can, and it's always a possibility until we make a complete decision about that. But my last pregnancy, just my health never came back the same. So I kind of think I'm done. We're in a season where my husband and I are able to travel and to dream about just us as a couple more than we were, you know, in the last 10 years of having babies and nursing and foreseeing future babies. And so we wouldn't make big commitments to trips or anything because there was always a possibility that there would be another baby. So we're in a fun season of our marriage, which coincidentally might mean that we get surprised with another kid, but hopefully not. And we are definitely in the process of making a final decision about that. That your marriage is a huge priority in your life. It is. It is definitely a huge priority in my life. I definitely cherish it above even my parenting, although everyone has always said that, like, you know, put your marriage first, and you're like, well, how can you do that? Because I have to keep these kids, you know, alive and fed, so how can I, like, put my marriage first? But what I've noticed is that for me, what that looks like in putting my marriage first, even when I'm parenting, is that my attitude toward my husband, I'm not sure that this is going to make the most sense. So sometimes I will have all these demands in my head, and they're things that I absolutely need to act on because I have to make dinner, I have to feed my kids, they need a bath, they need to be educated, all these things. But a lot of times that means that I won't make the time mentally or emotionally for my husband. So yeah, I might only see him for like 30 minutes a day, but I do try to save some energy and some communication for him, only so that I'm choosing him in that sense, because I can get my mental, like I could spend all my mental energy on my kids, which is for the most part important, but I could totally leave him out for a long time without that. You have a background in dietetics because of all of your family, because all of your family meals are healthy. No, that was something that interested me for a long time. I actually thought about pursuing that when I was in high school, but I think that just like I said, the Michael Pollan stuff, but then also I had always been a part of team sports, and health was important to me even as a teenager, and distance running made me kind of have to take control of my health because I needed to eat things differently even in high school than my family was eating. I needed more of a balance of this and that and whatever. So I started cooking and for myself when I was like 13 or 14, but that evolved into me actually cooking the majority of our family meals because I found that I enjoyed it. My mom loved that I loved it because she admits freely, she always is a great cook, but she admits that she doesn't love to cook. And so I actually started cooking for my family when I was like 14 years old. So I've always loved exploring food and health, and so that's where that comes in. But I also love pizza and, you know, nachos. So we're very balanced. You guys see our meals again, like I said. You guys see that sometimes we eat vegan curry and sometimes we eat, you know, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Whatever. You guys see what we eat. Okay, that you are a 3 on the Enneagram test, maybe. Guys, with this test, do I need to take this test? Everybody, I don't know what a 3 means. Let me look it up real quick. That's the last question, so. Number 3 on the Enneagram. The achiever, because when they are healthy, 3s can really achieve great things in the world. They are the stars of human nature and people often look up to them for their graciousness and personal accomplishments. Is this Enneagram test kind of like, what is it called? Is it like, what is that called? Astrology, you know, where like anything you read, you're like, oh yeah, that is me. Because I feel like I could probably be like multiple of these things. I don't know. Do you guys think I need to take the test? Let me know down below if you guys think I just like absolutely have to take this, and I will and post it in my Instagram stories if you think it's necessary. I'm seeing it all over the place, and it's been like a lot of questions I keep getting is like, did you take the test? What's your score on the test? So if I have to take this test, I will. Anyway, so those are your assumptions about me, and those are my answers about what I think about me. Who even really knows? I'm answering based on my assumptions about myself. So anyway, thank you guys for those assumptions, and thank you for being so gracious. It means a lot to me that there was nothing negative. I really appreciate that. I love this community. I love this community on Instagram and YouTube. If you don't follow me on Instagram already, please do so, because I communicate consistently over there, and I feel like I'm building relationships over there through like messages and things. So again, thank you guys. It means a lot to me that you're so kind and loving back toward me. So I will see you guys soon. Bye.